And I realized, like, oh, if you don't have to manage everything, the solution can be different. It can actually just be to have less to do, and it's more effective.
Welcome back to Duo On Air. I'm Abby.
And I'm Courtney.
And we're the ex-agency turned entrepreneurial team that puts the Duo in Duo Collective. Our boutique organic marketing agency specializes in SEO, social media strategy, and branding.
We're an everyday pair of business besties / marketing experts obsessed with helping our community learn more about what it takes to run a business.
Which is why on Duo On Air, we're not holding anything back. We're giving you all the info we know about how to grow your business organically so you can be the confident CEO you were made to be.
And how to navigate life as a small business owner.
Whether it's on your own or with your best friend by your side, so grab your coffee
or your mimosa, we don't judge.
And settle in for a quick value-packed episode of Marketing Tips.
Welcome back to the Duo On Air podcast. This is episode number 113, and today we have guest Jade Boyd, owner of Jade Boyd Co., on the podcast to talk about how to declutter your business in 5 simple steps. We are so excited to learn about this 5-step system and how we can start to simplify our business with some of these new tactics that help declutter our day-to-day and focus more on the things that help push our businesses forward while also allowing us to live the life we desire. If you are ready to ditch the busy work life, amen, yes we are, simplify and scale your business, organize your life, and start really showing up for yourself, your family, and your business, then this episode is definitely for you. All right, let's get to it. Hello, Jade. Thanks for being on the Duo On Air podcast. We are so excited to dive into everything that you do and your business, and I think our audience is going to resonate with all of this so much. So why don't you tell us a little bit about you and your business?
Yeah, so my name is Jade Boyd. I'm a business and productivity coach, and I focus on helping service providers who are about 2+ years into business and have kind of hit that stage where they cannot take on any more clients, but they're still not paying themselves. So they're finding themselves in that stage where they have to do something different. And I help them scale their business so that they can make more money while cutting back on what they're doing, which is what we're talking about today, how to declutter your business. So I help them declutter their business from top to bottom so that they can hit those goals while not having to work 80+ hours a week, which many of them are doing. I live here in Iowa City in the Midwest. I'm a Midwest gal, have always lived in Iowa, and my husband and I have lived in a fixer-upper and have been doing our own DIY projects for a very long time. We're coming about to a close, but we are also pregnant with our first kid, which means we'll probably finish the renovation and then immediately move, which
Oh
was
my
not
gosh.
the plan.
Well, congratulations. That's so exciting.
Thank you. Yeah, I have my 24-week ultrasound this afternoon, which will be
Oh, yay.
exciting.
You're like halfway there.
Before I was a mom, I was definitely a plant mom though. So that is definitely my hobby, either reading, I read a ton, or taking care of, I think I have like 35 plants at this point, which I have also started decluttering my plants because I don't know that I can keep all of them alive at this rate after a child. We'll see.
That is amazing. I feel like Abby and I can totally resonate with you. We both are plant moms. We like love our plants. We're also dog moms. So before we both became moms, we had those 2 things that we took care of. But I will tell you, well, it kind of depends on what plants you have. I have a lot of sustaining plants. They can kind of take care of themselves, but there have been a couple of plants after I have a 9-month-old. So after she was born, I was like, oops, sorry, plants.
Yep. I've actually taken some plants from a friend who was in the same situation, but now I feel like I'm going to be that friend who's like, can you just please take care of these babies? Because I cannot.
Yes. Or who wants plants? You guys can have my plants.
Yes.
That's amazing. So why don't you tell us a little bit how you got started? Your story is like so amazing and so unique and so inspirational. And I think our audience would just like love to hear kind of where you started and how you got into what you're doing now.
Yeah, so I like to say that my business journey started at the bottom of the Grand Canyon because that's the moment that I realized that I was on the wrong path and starting a business was what I actually wanted to do. I was in the middle of a 2-year MBA program. I did my MBA in marketing here at the University of Iowa, and for my summer internship, I was a business consultant for Grand Canyon National Park, and we were on this morning hike. In summer in Grand Canyon, you have to hike super, super early. So it's probably like 7 a.m. We're at the bottom of the canyon and the sun is just coming up over the edge. And I just realized this is my job. I'm getting paid actually pretty well to be here and have had the most amazing summer of my life. and realized that I was kind of staring down this corporate path after grad school that really was not exciting. It was horrifying to me to think about graduating and going to a cubicle or going back to a 9 to 5, which is what I went to grad school to escape, to figure out what do I actually want to do. And so in that moment, I realized that I'd always been passionate about business and had realized that this type of life and career was possible for me. And so I wasn't going to accept less than what I knew was already possible. So that is where my entrepreneurial journey kind of began. And after I graduated, it was very bumpy. I graduated in 2019, got engaged and married within 6 months, and started a business. And then obviously COVID happened in the
Yep.
same 12 months. So it was a crazy first year, but I looked at my laundry list of business goals, and photography was one of them, and decided, you know what, this one is really easy to start today. All I need is a camera and I can do it. And so that's how I started. I ultimately niched into brand photography and realized that I loved working with business owners. And I was always more passionate about the business side of my photography business and the entrepreneurial journey rather than actually taking the photos, which I still love. Don't get me wrong. I love to be creative as well. And I loved my clients. But after, I think, 2.5 years, realized that I had built this really successful brand photography business and I hated it. Not because I was overworked or because I wasn't organized or because I wasn't getting paid enough, but because I genuinely just wasn't excited about what I was doing. I'd built a business like a job that I wasn't excited about, and I felt a little bit trapped. And so I made a hard pivot into business coaching and decided to focus on what I really loved and what I would do no matter what I was doing. Like, even if I quit being a business owner, I would probably still have coffee chats with business owners and try to coach them about marketing or whatever questions they have. Um, so yeah, I quit brand photography, which was horrifying and very scary. Another big leap. But ultimately, I'm really glad that I did that, because I would not have the business that I have today or the clients that I have today had I not just taken the plunge and made that decision.
That's amazing. Yeah, I think that's the thing in the entrepreneurial world is that people, you start something and it doesn't quite go the way that you wanted, or you have this big idea, or you have all of these ideas and you're trying to figure out what it is that you want to do and hone in on that and actually really love it. So I think that's the hardest thing about this journey is finding that thing that you actually really love, especially when you're entrepreneurs. I think we have so many things too, like on our minds, like we want to do this and this and this. And I think that's where
Mhm.
we kind of get into that clutter zone, which is what we're focusing on and talking about today. So I think our brains get cluttered. I think our businesses could quickly and easily get cluttered. So I'm curious, what inspired you to focus on helping women declutter their business? What was that one thing or those few things where you're like, wow, all of these women who are building these amazing businesses are like focused on too much, or they've got so much going on that they can't hone in on one thing, or they feel like they have to
Mhm.
be chasing this and that and this in order to scale and grow their business. So what was it that really inspired you and pushed you into this idea of helping women declutter?
Yeah. So to answer that question, you probably have to know a little bit more about me. I have always been obsessed with productivity and planners and organizing, and was on the early swing of the Marie Kondo age for like decluttering and simplifying. And that has just always been a part of my personality and something I've been interested in my personal life. But I also think that I've always been obsessed with creating this perfect system. And in my mind, I had the idea that someday everything would fall perfectly in order and chaos would be over. And I would find that perfect system where there was a place for everything. My to do list was completely organized and streamlined. And that is just not the reality that we live in. And I realized that it is literally impossible to do everything that we want to do. We have to make choices. Like, trade-offs are a part of life. And I think that's where decluttering comes in. I realized, like, oh, if you don't have to manage everything, the solution can be different. It can actually just be to have less to do. And it's actually more effective and gives you a better sense of living. And so coming into business, I feel like I had that same mentality. Like, business organization is a completely new challenge and a new set of like task management and organization skills and system skills. And so it was really exciting for me as a photographer, and even leaning into business coaching, to like try and figure that out. It was really fun with me. I played with all the softwares, all the planners, that's just who I am. And again, realize like, oh, the solution isn't trying to figure out how to do everything that I want to do or how to like time block everything that I could possibly want to fit into a week or to a month. The solution actually is to do a lot less and focus on a few things that matter and make the hard choices to cut out what doesn't work. And since operating my business with that philosophy, it has completely changed not only my results that I've been able to get, but also just my quality of life because it's a lot less stressful when you're able to give yourself that permission to not do things and good things too, like saying no to the things that you don't like doing or that really aren't contributing to your business. That's easy. But saying no to the things that would be fun for you, that would just give you a little bit of an edge in your business, that could get you like one more client, you have to say no to a lot of those things as well, which is really difficult. But ultimately, that's what I found has worked for me and for my clients. So that's kind of how I landed up doing what I do today.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think when people think of the word or hear the word declutter, you automatically think your personal life, right? You're like, oh, the things in my house or the things that I haven't used for
Yeah.
years or my wardrobe. So I really love this mindset of thinking about it for your business because I don't think people are in that mindset of decluttering their business. I think people are in the mindset of, okay, well, I've got all of these things. So maybe I use these systems or maybe I hire these people or maybe I just keep grinding and I don't sleep and I don't take care of myself and I live a crazy life and I'm never able to slow down. But then we fall into that burnout phase, right? So I think
Mhm.
just changing that mindset on decluttering your business is so powerful. And I love that you focus on that and that you help women through that because I think that's so important. Like I'm sitting here and I'm like, gosh, I need to declutter my inbox and I need to do this and that, And but I also really love that you said saying no to the harder things, right? So it's easy. Well, it's not easy right away, but we tend to when we grow in our business, we're like, oh nope, I have to say no to this project, or I have to say no to this. But saying no to those fun things or those things that might like spark you a little bit is probably really challenging and something that we
Mhm.
probably don't think about either, right? We're working at midnight and we're like, no, this is really gonna like give us that edge, like you said, and maybe bring in one more client. But to sit down and actually think through that, like, should I be saying no to this? Should I be, slowing down a little bit or pivoting or, maybe this isn't an important thing right now and I can come back to it later and just kind of like be slow in my business. I think that's super
Mhm.
powerful that you said that. I love that. So how do you define business clutter and why is it important to address it? I know we've kind of talked about this a little bit, but I'd love you to go deeper on that.
Yeah. So I would define business clutter as, if to put it as simply as possible, it's really anything that distracts you from what's important in your business. And so what you consider clutter or not clutter, just like in your house, is going to be different for every single person and every single type of business because what's important or most important in each business or to each entrepreneur is going to be a little bit different. But if it's distracting you from actually making progress or getting the important things done on your daily to-do list or even making progress on your goals year by year, then I would consider it to be clutter. And the reason why that's so important is like you said, we can get really caught up in the hustle, in the daily like grind, do, and we're addicted to dopamine and we get a lot of
Mm.
dopamine when we cross off those small tasks. And it's really easy to start our day in our inboxes or with those small admin tasks that do give us that feeling of accomplishment, even though they don't really move the needle. And so identifying when you're working on important things versus when you're working on kind of like the admin backend stuff that's not really moving the needle, it's really important to be aware of how much time you're spending on each of those things, but also taking note of over time. Are you making progress on your goals? That is like the number one thing that you want to start with when you're knowing if you're focusing on things that don't matter. If everything that you're doing isn't helping you reach your goals for your business, then it's not worth doing, even though it might feel really fun or feel really exciting or even feel really productive or make you look successful on the outside. If it's not actually helping and your numbers aren't showing that, then it's probably clutter.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so important to kind of sit down and think through and try to figure out what that clutter is. Cause I could see a lot of our listeners, even myself, like trying to identify what is it that is quote unquote clutter in my business, and how do I clear that clutter, or how do I step away from that and make sure that what I'm doing is efficient, but also moving the needle, and kind of just taking a deeper look at that. So I follow this lady on Instagram, and this is for decluttering your house. And I can't remember who she is, but she's always got these, like, you can declutter your basement or your specific room in 20 minutes. And I think a lot of people are like, declutter in 20 minutes. There's no way, like, I can't do that. Right. And so I think she takes them through kind of these baby steps of how to declutter your home. So this next question I'm so excited about for you to talk about, because I know that you've got a lot to say about it. So that's going to be exciting. So could you walk us through the 5 simple steps to decluttering a business? Because I think when it comes to these kinds of things, people need simple, right? Because decluttering could be a huge process. When you think about decluttering your house, I'm sure maybe you're even in that phase right now if you're nesting, but it can seem overwhelming. So I think something is, 5 simple steps to start decluttering. What are those? And can you kind of dive into those a little bit for our audience?
Yeah. So I love that you pointed out that decluttering can be overwhelming because we think of getting rid of things as easy for some reason, and simple does not mean easy. Getting rid of things is actually a lot more difficult than adding things. And we live in a culture where the default mentality is like, if you have a problem, you have to buy something and that's the
Mm-hmm.
solution. Like adding something more must be the solution to fix your problem. But subtracting things is not the default solution that people usually go to. It is a solution, and I would argue a more sustainable solution, but it doesn't mean that it's easy. And so it does take some effort. And so the 5-step process that I'm going to walk through, it is simple, but it might not be easy. And I want anyone listening to this to know that even though it might seem overwhelming to go through these steps, the default of living the same way that you're living, if you're already living in overwhelm, like that's also overwhelming. And so this is
Right.
this is maybe hard. It might take a little bit of effort, but also it's going to be totally worth it, because I would argue that these 5 things are non-negotiable if you want to get out of overwhelm in your business. If you want to stop being busy and stop hustling, it's not going to happen unless you go through these 5 steps. So I do want to clarify, it's not going to be like 20 minutes. Oh, I'm
Right, right.
free.
Yes, it's not going to be like
Which,
that. Yeah.
yeah.
I think too, before you dive in, when you say, okay, so when we say simple and easy, so it's like, it's simple, but it might not be easy. When we say might not be easy, are you basically saying like, it might not be easy because of our mind, like our mindset, right? Like it's overwhelming to think about having to do one more thing, or to having to like navigate what decluttering looks like. So I think I'm very curious. I
Yeah.
kind of adding another question there, but is it the mindset of everybody where that's the hard part, that's the not easy part, but these things that you're giving us can be simple to do, but we just have to kind of get over that mindset of it.
Yeah. So I can probably touch on that as we go through each of the 5 steps, because how it looks difficult in each step is a little bit different. But in general, I would say simple means something that is boiled down to its most basic form. And easy means something that does not take effort. And so this does
Hmm.
take effort, but also it is boiled down to its most basic form, basic decisions. But you're right, mindset is a big thing that gets in the way of decision making in each of these 5 steps when you're talking about decluttering. Each of them requires you to make decisions, and some of those can
Hmm.
be really difficult. I like to think of like the notebook example, the GIF. It's like, what do you want? And
Yes,
she's like, it's
yes.
not that simple. And that's like a good example. It's really simple to decide where, and I think that GIF is used a lot on like, where are we going to go out to eat? And that's a huge struggle of
Yes,
mine
between
that
a
drives my
husband and wife or
husband crazy.
spouses. Yeah, like, where are we gonna go out to
Yes.
eat? I don't know, it's
And
not
it
that
is
simple.
super simple. Just pick something.
Right,
But
right.
it also doesn't feel easy because it requires making a decision, and our brains burn a lot of calories making decisions. And the more emotional that decision is, the more calories we burn, and the harder that feels, the more exhausting, like literally physically exhausting that
Yes.
can be for us. And I think we tend to discount that, especially like service providers who are more in like we don't physically like exert energy in our business, but we exert a lot of mental energy. We're mental workers. There's a lot of calories that get burned when you're making when you're making difficult decisions, especially. But if you make a few decisions initially, it can eliminate a lot of decisions that you might need to make later on.
Later. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's dive in. I'm very excited
Yes.
to hear
Okay.
these 5.
So the first step is clarity and knowing what you want. And I think of this in terms of goal setting, because I do think if we're going down to the root of the problem, not just diagnosing what's going on in the surface, but getting down to the really root, what's causing the problem, it's that we have a lot of different goals and we're pursuing a lot of different things in our business. And that kind of at the top down perspective, it comes down to setting your goals. And I suggest for your business, you have no more than 3 goals per year. And those might be really big goals that require a lot of different projects for you, and that's okay. But I think a lot of entrepreneurs get scattered and end up saying yes to a lot of things that are clutter producing things because they're not really clear on what their goals are or what's most important to them. So again, it's simple to set 3 goals and choose, but it can be really difficult because it might mean deciding, like for my example, I'm going to quit brand photography. That was not an easy thing to decide. But it eliminated a lot of decisions later on and helped me focus on what was actually going to be most sustainable for my business and what actually would drive the needle long term. Because I realized, everything that I'm doing to build a brand photography business, I know I don't want to do this in 10 years. So why am I wasting all this time and effort building something that I know is not going to last anyway? Why not invest that same time and energy into something that I do know I want to do long term?
Exactly.
So not everybody has that clarity. I think of it in terms of like Grand Canyon clarity, that like spark moment where all of a sudden all of the stars align and you know what you're supposed to do. That doesn't happen very often. And I would say for me, that's even been a huge struggle in my business. There's been a couple of moments like that. But for most of us, that clarity comes over time and gradually discovering and learning and trying things and getting one step closer to being clear on what we want for our business, for our lives. And those 2 things I don't think can be separated. So understanding where your business sits in the grand picture of your life too is really important. But it starts with clarity. And people think of decluttering immediately, like getting rid of things, right?
Yep.
That is actually what decluttering is. But you can't know what to get rid of until you know what's most important or the vision you want to stay. I think of this like cleaning out a closet, which is still hard for me. I don't have to do it very often. I call myself minimal-ish.
Yes.
But especially being pregnant, there have been some clothes that have been purchased in the past few months. There's probably going to be a few more. But if I don't have a vision of why I want to own less clothes, like why that's important to me, it's going to be a lot harder for me to get rid of things because I'll have an excuse for every single thing in there if it's going to fit someday or if it was great for that one event, or I think if I go to a wedding, I might wear it. There's an excuse for everything that you could keep in your business without that vision of what are you saying yes to before what you say no to.
I love that. That's amazing. Very eye-opening and just kind of mind-blowing too. And again, simple but hard.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. And again, if you can narrow it down to 3 goals, some business owners only set 1 goal or have like this is the year of the podcast or this is the year of SEO or whatever that might be. Choosing to focus on less and actually be able to put your full effort towards it, it's really rewarding because a lot of business owners who are scattering their efforts in a million different directions find it very unsatisfying because they're actually not able to do their best at anything. They're kind of just like putting half their effort towards a lot of things and not feeling like they're the best at anything. And that's not a fun place to be, but it's also not a very like profitable place to be either. When you're able to like really narrow down what's important to you and what you're doing, you're able to charge better rates, you're able to provide a better experience, you're able to like actually become that expert that you want to be. And so there's a lot of benefits that come from narrowing down your goals and what you want to do.
Yes, that's amazing. Love it. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Second
Keep
step.
going.
I did say that I'd get chatty. So
you're
first
fine.
step
You're fine.
lasted a
This is great. This is great stuff. I was about to add on more and I was like, oh, nope, I gotta let her go.
Yep. So the second step is to edit. So first, clarify what you want. Second is to edit and subtract what's not working, or again, what's distracting you from what's most important. So once you do know what your top 3 goals are, think about what is going to distract you from reaching those goals. And I'm sure that for each business owner, there's going to be certain things that come to mind and certain projects that could be set aside. But in the editing phase, I like to think of this as focusing on marketing as well, because when you think about your goals in business, ultimately, the bottom line is profit. And I truly believe that every business owner should have a profit goal and know where their numbers are at. And so when you're thinking about your 3 goals, at least one of them should be your profit goal. That is
Yes.
my suggestion. But when it comes to focusing on what's important and subtracting what's not, the lifeblood of your business is marketing. Whether or not you reach your financial goals, it's not going to matter like how neat and tidy your books are. It's going to matter how good you are at marketing. And marketing isn't just like posting on Instagram or writing a blog post. Marketing is being able to effectively communicate to people and effectively position yourself as the expert and have connect with your ideal people and have them understand why what you do is valuable in a way that leads them to pay you and hire you, right? And so marketing is a lot bigger than that. But yes, there's a lot of tactics like social media and blogging and
Yep.
SEO and podcasting. But when it comes to editing, I like to focus on marketing. There's a lot that you could subtract, and there might be some like major things in your business that you think of when it's like, okay, what's distracting me from reaching my goals this year? If I were to fast forward 365 days and not reach my goals, why would that be? And I'm sure that there's a few things that might come to mind. But other than that, focusing on marketing and what is actually going to drive the needle and help you get to your goals. And then figuring out, like, okay, what's going to get in my way of marketing my business in a way that I need to in order to reach my goals.
Awesome. Love it. I love that you call that edit too.
Yes.
It ties back to
Love
the
a good edit.
photography days. Yes.
So after editing, the third step is to organize. And I just want to point out this is the third step because I do think everyone jumps to this like, oh, I want to declutter. The
Mhm.
first step is to get organized. And like you even mentioned, clean out my inbox,
Yep, yep.
get my files in order,
You're probably like,
delete
"No,
those old
Courtney, you gotta
photos.
wait. That's step 3."
Yes, yes. Which is an important step, but it is step 3. So there's many, many, many different things that you can organize in your business. A lot of them might make you feel really good, but probably won't actually drive the needle or help you focus on what's important. I recently organized all of my photos in Google Photos, which was extremely rewarding and it feels really, really good. We wanted to do that before we had a baby because
Yep.
I know there's going to be so many more photos and I wanted
Tons
them
of
to be
photos.
organized. But ultimately, like it did help my business a little bit because now my VA and I have this shared like B-roll folder and like, things are neat and tidy, but ultimately that it was not really important, right? So
Right.
there's probably a lot of things like that that you can jump to in your business that would give you that dopamine hit that would feel really good and maybe even excite you when you open that certain app that aren't really going to move the needle. But if you were to focus on organizing one specific thing in your business, every business owner needs to have a task management system. Again, I just think it's
Yes.
non-negotiable to know how to manage your projects and know what you need to focus on each day and know what's important, know how to prioritize if you want to reach your goals and focus on what's important. Because again, it's not a matter of getting rid of things. That's kind of secondary. The primary thing here is focusing on getting things done that are moving the needle.
Yes, absolutely. We love Asana. I'm sure all of our listeners already know this, but we use Asana day in and day out, and we've used it since the beginning, and we still don't understand how they have such an amazing platform. We're on the free version still, but we just love it. We will always swear by it. So I know there's other great ones out there too, but if we didn't have that task management system, it'd be chaos. So
Yeah. And
very
I think you
important.
can get away without a software for a certain amount of time in business, but there's going
Right.
to come a turning point for every business owner where it's just not possible. I'm a
Yes.
ClickUp gal, and ClickUp and Asana are very, very similar. I also have a course called Organize Your Business that has the exact ClickUp template that I use. But I want to mention these 4 categories when it comes to task management because this is how my entire business, literally everything in my business, is organized around these 4 categories. The first one is goals. The second is marketing. The third is clients. And then the fourth kind of like catch all category is admin. So when it comes to task management, I have 4 folders. And when it comes to prioritizing my to do list, it goes in that order because, again, goals come first. You have to make time for those things
Yes.
because it's always going to come last. Marketing is second because if I want to reach my goals, I have to be
Have to
showing
market.
up and doing the things. Clients are third. And oftentimes, especially for service providers, clients always come first, which means your business
Yes.
either comes last or doesn't come at all. And clients, don't get me wrong, I love my clients. It's really, really important to serve your clients well, but ultimately they have built-in accountability with them, right? Like there's never going to be a day where I don't respond to my clients or I don't meet a deadline, because when we're responsible to other people, there's naturally that accountability built in. And so focusing on your goals and marketing first before you open your inbox or before you work on your client projects, it's probably not going to set you behind on client work anyway. And then admin is last. And if I get to it, then I get to it. If my bookkeeping is delayed for 3 weeks or whatever, or my email inbox fills up a little bit, it's not going to be a huge deal.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad that you touched on that, because I think, like you said, when you said clients third, in my brain automatically too, I'm just like, oh my gosh, clients third, what? But it is so important because you are accountable and you have these deadlines and you know you have to reach them, right? But if we continually put clients first, we aren't moving the needle for our business, right? We're not marketing our business, we're not working in our business or on our business. So then that starts to fall behind, and then you're not marketing yourself, you're not reaching your goals because you aren't marketing yourself. So I think that's so important, and I love that you laid it out like that as far as like how you work and how you have your task management system set up.
Yeah. And then just thinking about service providers that I've worked with recently. So I mentioned several times that I'm pregnant, but we would really like a doula for this first pregnancy. And it's been kind of a nightmare to find a doula. None of them are running their businesses like businesses. And from a client experience, it's terrible. It is an absolutely horrible experience. And we actually just hired a doula that we were really excited about, even though the process was pretty terrible. She's great.
Oh no.
And she backed out on us. And
Oh
now we have to like go
no.
back to square one. But I think for service providers, we think that when you focus on your own business first, that it's somehow selfish or that you're taking
Mm-hmm.
something away from your clients. But your clients need you to have a sustainable business. And if you're not making progress, ultimately, if you're not profitable and paying yourself and hitting your goals, ultimately, the better solution for you is going to be to go back to a 9 to 5, and then you can't help any of your clients, right? And
Right.
so
Yep.
focusing on your business is a service to your clients because they need you to have a sustainable business. And so it's not
Yes.
like an either or, like it's a zero sum game where either I'm helping you or I'm helping me. It's a both and.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. So powerful. Love that.
Yes. So organize. You can organize all the things. So clarity, edit, organize. The fourth one is to execute. And so I like to say that you can nail all the 3 steps. You can have the perfect goals, the perfect marketing plan, everything is perfectly organized. But if you don't show up and do something where nobody on your team shows up and actually gets things done, then it's not going to matter in the end. And so the 4th step is actually doing the things and learning to manage your time, your focus, and your energy.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to think of this in terms of a week. I like to say that if you can have a productive week, then you can have a productive business. And as women, our energy cycles do not operate on 24 hours. And so
Nope.
it's really difficult to say, like, every single day, this has to be consistently what I do. But in a weekly basis, it is a lot easier, even if something goes wrong or something comes up, that you can like adjust and move things
Mm-hmm.
around and make things happen on a weekly basis. So I'm a huge fan of weekly planning. And I think that this is something that everyone listening to this is gonna be like, yes, 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 I've heard this before. Ideal weeks. It's all great. You might have even tried it and not liked it because you didn't try it long enough and it didn't
Yep.
stick. But again, I really do believe that this is a non-negotiable thing, and that so many entrepreneurs get caught up in that cycle of every single week when something comes up, they think next week. Like
Oh,
there's plenty
absolutely.
of time. It'll happen
Mm-hmm.
sometime, and then it doesn't. So I when I was in quick story, when I was in undergrad, I remember taking an introduction to management course. I was studied entrepreneurship as an undergrad, and the first module that they taught was how to manage yourself, like your own personal budget and your calendar and stuff. And I remember sitting there thinking, what a waste of my time. Is this what college is? This is like basic life skills. And then in grad school, I did my undergrad and grad school at the University of Iowa. So I was a TA, a teacher's assistant, in the very same course with the very same professor. So I had to sit through the very same lecture, then like 7 years ish later, And I remember listening to that and seeing it completely differently, having been in the real world for a while and then come back to academics and realized that there are very few people in the world who know how to manage themselves. And you cannot
Mm-hmm.
manage a business, especially as a solopreneur, until you learn how to manage yourself. So again, when it comes to decluttering, looking at those three things, time, energy, and focus, even drawing a line down the middle of a piece of paper and realizing like what is important for you to spend your time, energy, and focus on, what contributes to those things versus what are the drains and the clutter that is just sucking your energy, sucking your time, sucking your focus, and distracting you from what actually is important.
Mm-hmm. I am definitely that person in my personal life where I'm like, oh, next week, oh, next week, oh, next week. There's plenty of time, like going to the gym. It's like, oh, next week. And I'm a person who also needs to start on a Monday. I'm like, I have to start at the beginning of the week. And I don't know how many people out there are like that, but I'm like, I can't start on a Wednesday. That's weird. Who starts in the middle of the week, right? So I love that you brought that up too, because I think it's so easy to just keep pushing that out. But you just have to get started and you have to try it. And I don't remember what they say for how many days or weeks you have to do something for it to become basically a habit, right? But you have
There's
to,
a lot of different things said out
yeah,
there about habits. Yeah.
yeah. So it's just like you have to stick with it because if you don't, it's just going to all kind of derail and you're never actually going to get into a great system.
Yeah. And again, I think one of the reasons why people fail or give up on like the ideal week activity or structure is that they try it once and they aren't able to do it perfectly. And so they think this isn't going to work instead of taking them
Hmm.
in the mindset of, I'm going to change one thing at a time. I'm not going to completely be a new person with a new schedule next week, but this is what I'm working towards. This is what's ideal. This is never going to happen, probably.
Right.
I mean, something new is going to pop up every single week, but this is what I'm working towards. So even if you start doing one new thing, like you block time for your goals 2 hours a week instead of blocking your entire week and focus on doing that consistently and then adding a different time block, whatever that looks
Hmm.
like. But I do think that you said that mindset gets in the way for a lot of this. And I do think the all or nothing mindset is one of the big ones. Either I'm going to do it all perfectly or I'm not going to try at all. And
Yep.
that's not helpful for
No,
anybody.
no. And nobody can ever do that, right? Nobody
No.
can ever succeed by doing that. So I think it's a huge mindset thing.
Yeah. But we love, I mean, there's the deep dark hole of Instagram. That's the aesthetic, like
Oh,
productivity
yes.
lifestyle. And it's
Yep,
very
yep,
ideal. My
yep.
life does not look like that at
No,
all.
nobody's does.
It's very fun to watch. And even yesterday, I'm really into like planner inspiration on YouTube. Like I'll literally
Hmm.
just watch people plan in their planners, the people who do the
Okay. Oh my
beautiful
gosh.
layouts.
Yep.
I'm a nerd like that, but that's not realistic. Like it's fun to watch other people and they even do it because they're creative. And even on Instagram, when you see like the perfect morning routine where the sun, like the blinds are coming up and they have the
Right.
perfect iced coffee in this beautiful glass, like your routine doesn't have to be like that. The
No,
focus
no.
should be sustainability, like what is good for you, not
Yes,
somebody else.
exactly. Yep. Exactly. Preach.
Yes. Okay. So getting to the last stage again, 5 stages, all of them are non-negotiable. The fifth one is maintain. So I like to say that this is less something that you do one time and more of like a rhythm that you should be
Hmm.
repeating over and over again, because as life changes, as your business changes, you're going to come back to each of these 5 steps. And I've had repeat clients who have gone through my program 3 or 4 times and have said like, man, this feels like it should be easier. Like I've already done this. Why is it so hard to make these decisions?
Yep.
And know that that's normal. Like this is not something that you do once and then it's like, oh, I'm perfectly organized and decluttered and all my systems are set.
And it's just
No,
gonna
things are
work.
going to change. Yes,
Yep.
exactly. Like again, going back to like when I originally discovered the Getting Things Done, David Allen, it's kind of like a OG productivity book, and took an in-person workshop for that course when I was in my full-time job actually. And it very much gave me the mentality of everything's going to get organized and then it's going to be set for life. And that's just not reality. So in the maintain stage, you just have checkpoints that help you step out of the day to day and reassess like, is this working? Do adjustments need to be made? And the number one checkpoint that I love to suggest for business owners is a weekly review, which can be very simple, just a check in every week to say what worked, what didn't, Did I stick to my promises to myself? Did I show up for what was most important to me? And if not, what is like a tiny step that I can take next week to, again, just make those small steps in the right direction that are going to add up over time? And super simple. Again, not rocket science, but most business owners are not doing this. And over time, those small adjustments really, really do add up.
I love it. Okay. So can you say them 1 through 5 again?
Yes. So clarity,
Clarity.
know what you want, edit, subtract what's not working, organized, and focus on task management if you haven't already. Execute, learn how to manage your time, focus, and energy, and then maintain. Learn how to step out of the day to day and take that 3,000-foot level view of, is this working? And I always suggest starting with a weekly review.
Yes, I love it. I love it. That is so amazing. I am going to start following these 5 steps because I know that I need this in my life for business and personal. That was all amazing. So, in your experience, what are some of those common sources of clutter in businesses, and how can we identify them and eliminate them? Like, what are like 3 of the top ones that you see for
Yeah.
women's businesses?
So it's hard for me to break away from the goals marketing clients admin structure because that is literally how I think of everything in my business. Like I said, my task management system is organized that way, my
Yep.
calendar, my files, everything.
Yep.
And so when it comes to sources of clutter, I think I would look at each of those 4. Again, for goals, you have too many goals. You're not clear on what you
Yes.
want. You think you can do everything.
Yeah, when you said 3,
Or
my mind was blown. I was like, "Wait,
yeah.
what?" Like, everybody I think thinks that they need like 10 to 15 goals and you have to reach them all, and so 3, when you like pared that down, I was like, "That's amazing." Like, that's a great place to start.
And I think with goals, a common mistake I see business owners make is that they confuse goals with projects. Projects can be
Yes.
done in less than a year. Goals take a year or more. So again, when I say like financial goal, there's going to be so many projects and so many marketing activities that you have to do to reach that goal. But the projects are flexible. Whether or not you launch the podcast doesn't matter. There's other ways to reach that goal. But I think a lot of business owners are like, launch the podcast. That's the goal. When it's not really, it's a project that could
Right.
help you get to an ultimate goal. But differentiating those 2 things might help for the business owner who's like, I literally have 15 goals this year. You might only have
Yes.
3 if you reorganize them.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. That clarity. Mhm.
Yes. And then for marketing, you talk about this so much on your podcast, so I don't know that we need to go into depth here, but there's a lot of things that business owners do in terms of marketing that are not driving the needle. And again,
Mhm.
just knowing your numbers and paying attention to where traffic is coming from, where leads are coming from, the clients who are booking time and time again, like what is actually working. And there's probably very few things that are driving a disproportionate amount of those results. And again, like any little thing is going to add a little bit of benefit. Like if you post one more time on Instagram, or if you're
Mhm.
podcasting every week instead of every other week, that's going to give a little bit of benefit, and don't discount that. But is it the best use of your time and energy? There's probably 1 or 2 platforms that are driving more
Right.
of your leads or your results than the others. And if you feel like you're not doing any of your channels well, or you don't have the team or capacity to show up in the way that you want to, it's okay to just focus on 1 or 2 and do them
Mhm.
to the best of your ability.
Yep, yep, we talk about that a lot. Yeah, I think a lot of people instantly are like, "Oh my gosh, I have to be posting to social," or like Instagram. I think Instagram is the big culprit there, where people are like, "I have to be on Instagram every day and doing this and that and that and this," and you're like, "You don't, though." I
Hmm.
mean, if it's bringing you a lot of business, sure, maybe, but you don't need to feel stressed about it, right? And that doesn't have to be your number one thing. And let's say you're pouring all of your energy into that when really you should be working on your podcast or your newsletter, or you're bringing in leads from your blog because your SEO is great. You don't have to focus just solely on Instagram. I think that's where a lot of people feel like they need to be,
Yeah,
and they put so much
100%.
pressure on themselves, and that's not necessarily true. So I think, like you said, like figuring out, like looking at your results and where you need to be putting your energy versus maybe wasting your energy somewhere else.
Yeah. So goals marketing, and then clients is the third one. It honestly surprises me how manual a lot of service providers client workflows are. I think there's a lot of tasks that can be automated or even delegated when it comes to managing clients. And even some clients that maybe you should have said no to, or like you have that gut
Yes.
feeling of like, I almost want them to leave. So decluttering clients can look like narrowing down who you're working with and maybe even cutting some clients who are not good fits anymore, which is really hard. Like I said, I work with service
Mm-hmm.
providers who are about 2+ years into business and they're already great at what they do. And many of them have these OG clients who are getting phenomenal rates who are not aligned to what they're currently doing anymore and are becoming a hindrance to their business. And it is really hard as a business owner to level up when your clients have not leveled up and to
Yep.
part ways with people, especially when you have those good relationships with them. And again, they've been with you from the beginning, but making those hard decisions ultimately is going to free you up to build that sustainable business because you can't stay stuck because others are stuck. So the third one is clients, which can come from decluttering clients themselves
That's
or figuring
amazing.
out how to
Just
declutter
even
your
just,
process.
yeah, decluttering your clients. Yeah. Like just a whole nother part of thinking about decluttering your business. It's not necessarily the tasks that you do every day or, what you're doing in your business or on your business. It could also be the clients that you're working with too.
Yeah. And part of that would be offers as well. I see a lot of business owners jump to like, oh, I want to make more money. I need to create a new offer. And then they end up
Mm-hmm.
with a bunch of offers, none of them that have great sales funnels or like processes in place to sell them. And again, focusing on those one or two offers that are going to help you scale your business is something that I focus on with service providers, especially because you don't need 10 offers.
Right.
Most likely, depending on what your financial goals are, you probably
Yep.
don't need 10 offers. And I recently had somebody on my podcast who scaled to 1.6 million in revenue with one offer. And so
That's
I know
amazing.
that any business owner listening to this, you have more offers than you need to already to hit your financial goals, most likely. And so the solution is not a new offer. And you might even do better if you market less offers and do it more consistently.
Yes. Yes. Amazing. Well, this was so good. I feel like I've learned so much, and I am going to take all of everything that I've learned and start decluttering my part of my business. I know Abby probably has things that she'd like to declutter in Duo too, because none of us are perfect. So, and in my personal life, and I'm so excited for you. I'm sure you're like in that nesting phase too. I remember when I was nesting, and it's a fun little process. So,
It is. And
congratulations.
I'm in my nursery technically right now, which will become
Oh,
a nursery. It's my office
fun.
right now. Cause again, home renovations, not quite
Yes.
done yet, but we have a
Yes.
firm deadline now.
There you go. There you go. So, why don't you tell our audience where they can find you and if you have anything exciting on the horizon or going on right now?
Yeah. So the best place to find me is probably on the podcast. My podcast is called The Business Minimalist, and that's where I give like the best of my content. As a marketing minimalist, the rest of my content is really repurposed from the podcast. So if you want to go to the source, that's
Beautiful.
where to get it. And then the one place to start, if this idea of decluttering your business feels appealing to you, I have a masterclass called Double Your Profit While Working Less that we can link in the show notes that kind of sets the groundwork for how do you double your profit, double your productivity in your business while not adding more to your plate. And in fact, doing less. That is the intro masterclass that you can grab for free.
Perfect. Love it. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. I know our listeners are going to absolutely love this, and we'll have all of these in our show notes. So be sure to check out the show notes and find all where you can find Jade and all of those links. If you liked this episode, please be sure to share it with a friend and subscribe so you don't miss any new episodes dropping every Monday. Plus, if you haven't already, please leave us a review and don't hesitate to share any new episode ideas. We love hearing from you and creating this content for you. See you next week.